All right, so the new PTB has been live for a couple of days, and needless to say, a lot of people aren't happy with it, myself included. Atsdarva even made a 50-minute long video expressing his disappointment for the changes and offering an insane amount of tweaks to this new system that they implemented on the PTB. And I think that's the main problem of these PTB changes. There's way too many different things that you have to keep track of that you have going on, so many different timers, so many different status effects. I came up with a solution that's actually already in the game that could take care of all of this overnight. I'm talking it would completely eradicate camping, tunneling, and slugging overnight, and it would eradicate a lot of the frustration points in this game. So that change would be implementing the original 2v8 cage stomp mechanic. So if you guys didn't know, you can see it on screen. When you downed a survivor in the first iteration of 2v8, you could actually stomp on the survivor. It was a 1-second animation, and it would send them to a cage. Now, we'll go point by point why this would fix tunneling, slugging, and camping, right? So up first is slugging. Now, there's a few main reasons why a killer might slug. The majority of the reasons will be one of three, right? It's either A, because they see a survivor nearby with a flashlight, in which case they have to slug to push that survivor off, maybe injure them. Two, the survivor went down on pallet and now they're like a little paranoid and they're checking for a pallet save, like a hiding survivor nearby. Or three, it's because they see two survivors super close together and you might as well try to at least injure both of them and down one, if not injure and down both of them, right? If I'm playing Huntress, you best believe I'm going to try to down both survivors at once. Because if you just down the one survivor and don't injure the other, then they could just go work on a gen for free. And if you can down both of them, now while you're hooking one, you don't have to worry about the other one getting reset, right? So that's pretty simple. If you implement the cage stomp mechanic, it only takes 1 second to cage/hook, quote unquote, the survivor. So you can immediately continue right in chase. You're not worried about pallet saves because those would be gone. You're not worried about flashlight saves because those would be gone. And you're not worried about losing the other survivor because you can easily keep up the pressure because that's exactly how it was in OG2V8. You could easily just cage survivors while continuing to chase others, right? I know you might object to these changes and say that we're getting rid of a lot of things that the survivors can do, because if you do get rid of pallet saves and flashlight saves, I mean, what's left? Pretty much just chasing, looping, and working on generators. But I would argue we're already getting rid of 3 gameplay aspects on the killer side. Things that killers enjoy. I do enjoy camping, tunneling, and slugging. I enjoy making the right decision and trying to strategize the best way to win. And we're completely gutting those gameplay options and making them unusable for the most part. So I think we take this to its logical conclusion. If we gut and kill and remove 3 core gameplay aspects on the killer side and just dull it down and homogenize it into chase, hook, repeat, then we can do the same thing on the survivor side. You know, I never really even felt that flashlight saves and pallet saves were fair to begin with, because the killer could spend like so much time in a chase, they earn that down, and then it just gets stolen by a flashlight save that was made 100 times easier a couple years ago, or a pallet save. And not to mention the fact that you can't even really balance pallet saves and flashlight saves, because a pallet save and a flashlight save won't do anything to a blight or a nurse. But it can absolutely, one flashlight save or pallet save could absolutely destroy a Ghostface game entirely. So, and it would also go a long ways into helping the killer rule feel like the power rule again. But that's just a potential option. And also, on a side note, if we're complaining about getting rid of survivor gameplay aspects, they could always create new items that offer more gameplay incentive or new mechanics, right? Like a couple quick ones I came up with are, say, like a carpenter's hammer, where you collect scrap from 3 broken pallets and it allows you to build a ladder that goes to windows or holes in floors that lead to second stories to allow survivors like mini shortcuts. Or maybe like an engineer's box that allows you to go to a generator and craft items from it. Like, say, a flashlight. You can take 10% of the progress off a generator to make a purple flashlight, or 15% to get a key so you can like escape in the end game, things like that. Or maybe like give the survivors a little portable gurney type thing that allows them to grab slugs and pull them away from the killer at a reduced speed, so that way they can like just try to get a res instead of a pallet save or flashlight save because those won't be in the game anymore, right? So you'd have one survivor distracting the killer. The killer goes after them to try to get an injury, maybe, and then a survivor with a little portable gurney grabs the other survivor and can start reviving them while carrying them away at like 80% movement speed, something like that. There's a lot of new, unique, and interesting things that you could do and add to the game to make Survivor more fun that keeps the core gameplay loop, but just put them in the add-ons or the item slot. And yeah, I think survivors would like that a lot. It's kind of like if you think of Battlefield 6 where you could grab somebody by the collar and start reviving them while you're dragging them away. It'd be kind of like that, right? But the only reason why I made it into a portable gurney thingy is just so that way it's an item. You know what I mean? Or maybe you could make it a perk. Who knows? The second thing it would get rid of would be camping. Obviously, when you cage a survivor, it teleports them to the opposite side of the map. So 99% of the roster is going to struggle to go over there and camp. And if you did get over there to camp because you found it, even though it doesn't give you an aura read on the cage, it would move after being within 16 meters of it for 8 seconds. It would teleport back to the other side of the map. Now, for a certain hypermobile killer like Blight or Ghoul, you could bump it up to 20 meters, which does add a little bit of complexity, but those killers really do need more restrictions, more than they already have, honestly. And yeah, you don't know where they're at. You just kind of have to figure it out in your head through your mental. And like I said, they do get teleported away if you're too close. The only notification you get is the unhook notification, but the survivor would still have their base kit, borrowed time, and haste off the cage. So if the killer did get over there, they would still have a little bit of protections here and there, right? And like I said, it's going to teleport them to the opposite side of the map, generally right next to a survivor. And if that survivor's working on a gen that's at like 90%, well, you don't want to pop the gen first and then get the unhook and heal, because then the killer will be over there to interrupt the heal and tunnel. So you'll pull the survivor out of the cage first, heal them, and then you'll probably double the generator. So that'll give the killer some time to get over there to maybe contest that gen after they finish the heal, right? And then for tunneling would be the least affected out of all the changes because, you know, at the end of the day, tunneling killers really don't tunnel. They really don't go out of their way to tunnel unless they're feeling a lot of pressure. But if a survivor accidentally runs into you or they're trying to use their off the hook perks, because cages would still proc hook perks in my design. You know, a lot of survivors get themselves tunneled, so I don't know how much this would necessarily change tunneling, but this would pretty much completely eradicate the 3-hook tunnel, right? Because the killer just has no idea where the hook went to, and then by the time they get the notification, the survivor is pretty much going to be healed by the time they get over there. Again, unless it's Nurse or Blight or Ghoul. Even Nurse would actually struggle to get over there. But like I said, those killers need changes on their own. And it would essentially affect all killers the exact same by allowing all of them to keep their current tempo. And they wouldn't have to worry about Sabo saves or pallet saves or flashy saves or anything like that. And you know, you could make it to where Victor can cage a survivor, Oni cages a survivor during his power, things like that. Obviously, Blight and Nurse and Ghoul would get an insane power creep because this would allow them to keep too much tempo, but those killers need to be tweaked in other ways anyways to compensate. So, and they probably will be tweaked soon in the future because people keep complaining about them. But yeah, I personally think that these would be the best changes. This would literally fix everything instantly overnight, essentially. And I don't think they're actually going to implement the changes because, first of all, it would be too simple and straightforward. Two, they don't want to homogenize the survivor gameplay. They really only want to do that to killers. It really seems like they're kind of just trying to make killers NPCs, really. Like they're trying to put us on tracks and make us very samey, very predictable. I go after survivor A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. You know, that's pretty much all the killer is allowed to do. And they want to open up the windows of things for survivors to do, it seems like. So they probably won't implement that. But I do have an entirely new set of changes that don't interfere with the gameplay that much that I'll cover in a later video. Just some like killer tweaks and stuff to make them feel like the power roll again if this new update goes live. That doesn't remove flashlight saves and pallet saves, things like that. I think you guys might like that one a lot better if you don't like the idea of getting rid of those flashy saves and pallet saves. And honestly, you know, I don't blame you. It's been a part of the game for 9 years at this point, so it feels really weird to get rid of it, which is why I have such a problem with camping, tunneling, and slugging. Like, you guys have been playing this game for 9 years straight. I think it's time to get over it. It's part of the gameplay. We should not be trying to change it. It's part of the gameplay. It's been like that for 9 years. You're still here after 9 years or 5 years or however long you've been playing. You should be used to it by now, honestly, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to talk about that real quick, offer a suggestion because the fix is already in the game. It already exists. If you really needed to, if the tempo became too fast, you could implement faster gen speeds, like bring them back down to 80 or 70 or whatever to compensate. But I suggest just pushing the cage stomp mechanic for the OG2V8 live right now, completely eradicating camping, tunneling, and slugging without it being overly complex and complicated, and then see where the kill rates go, and then bring the gen speeds back if you need to, things like that. But yeah, that does it for this one. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to that good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. And don't forget to come back for that next video because I got another set of changes that could work that are equally as complex as the Survivor ones, but not as oppressive, but I still think very, very good that you guys would really like. And I really like a lot that would actually make the killer feel like a killer again, like the power rule. So that video will be out in a couple of days. But yeah, that does it. I'll see you.